Will Deadpool and Wolverine win an award for fitting the most cameos in a single movie? From villains we thought were dead to a fan favorite that never got his own solo film, there are a ton of cameo appearances to unpack. Shortly after the movie begins, Wade finds himself on Earth 616, otherwise known as the Sacred Timeline, where he's applying to become an Avenger. He's in an office sitting across the desk from none other than Happy Hogan, who asks him why he wants to be an Avenger, but Wade's response doesn't sway Happy in his favor. Happy Hogan was first seen in Iron Man in 2008. Of course, MCU fans are likely well aware that the actor who plays him, Jon Favreau, not only directed that movie and its sequel, but he effectively established the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the success of both. Having him speak to Wade about becoming an Avenger is all the film really needed to tie it into the MCU, but the movie just adds to it from there. Happy's office is a smorgasbord of small details and Easter eggs as well, with some standing out more prominently than others. While the unfinished Captain America shield from Iron Man 2 is centrally displayed, there are other items of interest to MCU fans, including Tony Stark's original arc reactor and the Iron Man helmet that appears to be the one worn by a child in Iron Man 2, which is later confirmed to be Peter Parker. Shatterstar first appeared in Deadpool 2 as one of the members of X-Force.
I'm basically better than you at everything. I just want someone to find a planet of people that are worse than me at everything.
He famously died by parachuting directly into the spinning blades of a helicopter, transforming him into green goo as he's liquefied to death. Later in the film, Deadpool gets hold of Cable's time travel device and decides to set some things right, including saving his team. Actually, he only manages to save Peter Wisdom and doesn't help out anyone else from the X-Force team who perishes, which fits his character. Despite this, Shatterstar appears to be alive and well in Deadpool and Wolverine, and looking none the worse for wear despite his intimate interaction with the helicopter rotor. It isn't shown in Deadpool 2 or even discussed in Deadpool and Wolverine, but Deadpool must have also gone back and saved Shatterstar at some point. Otherwise, there's no explanation for why he's back. He's visible in the scene showing Wade's birthday celebration and again at the end of the film, though he doesn't have any lines that are discernible from the rest of the group and is more of a background cameo than anything else. One of the biggest cameos in the film that somehow wasn't spoiled in a trailer was the return of Chris Evans as Captain America. But wait, that was just some archival video. Evans actually reprises his role as Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch from Fantastic Four and its sequel, Rise of the Silver Surfer. When Deadpool first sees him, he mistakenly believes he's Cap, having just watched videos of him at the time Variant's Authority. Instead of saying Avengers Assemble like Deadpool anticipates, Johnny instead shouts the Human Torch's iconic catchphrase as he rises high into the air. He then blasts scorching fire at another character who will be mentioned momentarily and has his flame quickly snuffed out. This leads to his dropping from the sky and landing in several incredibly painful ways before he's captured. A short time later, Deadpool drops some truth bombs that Cassandra Nova doesn't appreciate hearing, and he attributes them all to Johnny. In an instant, Nova telekinetically removes all of Johnny's skin, leaving him to collapse into a pool of bones, internal organs, and blood. In the film's post-credit scene, Deadpool reveals that everything he told Nova that Johnny said was indeed straight from the Torch's mouth. Sabretooth first appeared in live action in X-Men in 2000, played by Tyler Mane. When the character next appeared in X-Men Origins Wolverine, he was portrayed by Liev Schreiber, and while that film isn't the best in the franchise, Schreiber did an excellent job with the character.
What gave me away?
While it's not clear if Schreiber was asked to reprise the role in Deadpool and Wolverine, Mane did return, looking exactly as he did in X-Men. Sabretooth appears alongside several other X-Men foes and is excited to see Wolverine. The two face off for what is almost certain to be an epic fight. The last time these two actors battled as Wolverine and Sabretooth was almost a quarter century ago, so their final fight is a long time coming. Of course, when they actually do face off against one another, Sabretooth takes a run at his foe and has his head immediately removed from his neck. Deadpool then picks it up and plays with it, much to everyone's chagrin. While he didn't have a huge role in the film, seeing Mane return as Sabretooth was certainly a treat for fans of the first live-action X-Men film. Toad first appeared in 2000's X-Men and was portrayed by Ray Park. Needless to say, his ability to swing a quarterstaff made him an ideal candidate for the role. Granted, Toad is far more impressive with his prehensile elongated tongue, but he's got more than a few skills. Toad was famously killed by Storm in X-Men when she uttered the line,
"Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
He's then hit by a massive bolt of lightning and is hurtled off into the distance, never to be seen again. At least that's what most viewers likely thought, until he returns in Deadpool and Wolverine, looking very much like he did in X-Men decades earlier. Toad's appearance in the film was noticed by a few eagle-eyed viewers who caught him in the trailer, and he definitely appears in the film. Toad fights Deadpool, Wolverine, and their all-star team of resistance fighters in the Void. He makes the mistake of going up against, a later entry on this list, who makes quick work of him. Another character from the X-Men films whose participation was revealed in the trailers for Deadpool and Wolverine is Pyro. Pyro first appeared in a brief scene in X-Men, where he was played by Alex Burton. Aaron Stanford picked up the role in X2, X-Men United, and X-Men The Last Stand, starting out as a recruit for the X-Men, but ending up with Magneto by the end of X2.
You are a god among insects. Never let anyone tell you different.
In The Last Stand, he's all in on Magneto's plan, but gets taken out in a confrontation with Iceman. At some point, he must have been pruned by the TVA, because he appears in the Void in Deadpool and Wolverine. Pyro is working for Cassandra Nova, and he's the fellow who snuffs out Johnny Storm's flame without breaking a sweat, or even moving more than his hand. He then communicates with Mr. Paradox about getting rid of Nova, which he attempts to do. Pyro shoots Nova while she's unable to fight back, and as he's giving his speech about why he did it, Wolverine punches him in the face and knocks him out cold, saying not everyone gets to make a speech. He's later killed by Nova after she arrives on Deadpool's Earth 10005 to steal the Time Ripper and make the Void the only realm in existence. Lady Deathstrike first appeared in live action in X2 X-Men United, played by Kelly Hu. Deathstrike doesn't have more than a line or two in the film, but she doesn't really need to speak. She says everything she needs to with her adamantium claws. She extends 10 claws from her fingers and deftly stabs them repeatedly into Wolverine at the Alkali Lake facility, as directed by William Stryker. Wolverine manages to stop her by stabbing Deathstrike in the belly with an adamantium syringe, which pumps liquid metal into her body, killing her almost instantly. He reprises a role in Deadpool and Wolverine. She has even less to say in this film, as she's only seen fighting and doesn't have an opportunity to say anything. In fact, she's hard to see and is primarily recognizable by her claws. When Deadpool, Wolverine, and their cameo-heavy cast of comrades show up at Cassandra Nova's compound, Lady Deathstrike is one of many characters who opposes them. While her death isn't shown in the movie, it's unlikely that she walks away with all of her body parts fully intact. Among the many rumors online about cameos, this one turned out to be true. Jennifer Garner reprises her role as Elektra in Deadpool and Wolverine. Garner first played the character in 2003's Daredevil, starring Ben Affleck in the title role. She returned to the role once more in the much-derided solo film Elektra in 2005, and given how poorly that movie did, it's hard to believe she'd want to throw on the red leather once more. Fortunately, Garner appears in Deadpool and Wolverine as one of the others stuck in the void at the end of time, wanting her existence to mean something and to be remembered for the people she saved. To that end, Elektra joins Deadpool and Wolverine's small band of heroes as they take the fight to Nova. She's not shown again after the big fight, but if she survives, it's implied that she and the rest of the others get to return to their own timelines thanks to a deal Deadpool makes with the TVA. While Wolverine is probably at the top of many people's lists of most beloved characters from the X-Men comics, arguably just behind him is Gambit. The character gained widespread popularity in X-Men the Animated Series, and he appeared in live action for the first time in X-Men Origins Wolverine, as played by Taylor Kitsch. While Kitsch doesn't appear in Deadpool and Wolverine, Gambit certainly does. This time around he's played by Channing Tatum, and there's a special reason he was cast in the role. Tatum tried to make a Gambit solo film for years, but that project unfortunately never manifested. As fan service for those who wanted to see Tatum in the role, he appears in Deadpool and Wolverine, and he does not disappoint. His thick Cajun accent is played as a joke, but Tatum is 100% Gambit and even wears a costume that is comics accurate. He throws his charged up cards, and they don't just go boom like they did in the animated series. They blow people up into clouds of purple dust. Gambit fights alongside Deadpool, Wolverine, and the rest at Cassandra Nova's compound, managing to kill several characters using his cards and signature staff. He's presumably returned to his timeline at the end by the TVA, although whether that timeline actually exists remains unknown. If there was one cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine few could have predicted, despite the rumors, it was Blade. Wesley Snipes played the character in 3 films, and while he was great in the role, there's already a new Blade in the MCU, played by Mahershala Ali. That film is still in development, so it was a nice surprise to see the OG character in an MCU film. It even takes a jab at the MCU's Blade. Blade appears as one of the others, joining Deadpool and Wolverine in their quest to escape the Void by taking down Cassandra Nova. Like Elektra and Gambit, he wants to be remembered for something. He gives it his all in fighting for the good guys, wasting no time in taking on a number of deadly foes, including Toad. We don't see Blade again at the end of the film, but he presumably returns to his timeline, just like his allies. Laura Kinney, aka X-23, is a clone of Wolverine, who first appeared in live action in Logan. Her appearance in Deadpool and Wolverine was revealed in the final trailer, so she wasn't much of a surprise reveal, even though actress Daphne Keane lied about her participation prior to the movie's release. When Keane first played the character, she was just a tween. Now she's 19 and a full-fledged superhero fighting for the good guys.
You were always the wrong guy.
It's not explained in the film how she wound up in the Void, but what is clear is that she's the same X-23 from Logan. Regardless of how she arrived in the Void, she's there when Deadpool and Wolverine show up looking for folks to help them take down Cassandra Nova. She and the others agree to help, and Laura proves her worth by obtaining an item needed to take down Nova for good. Laura kills several members of Cassandra's army, including one notable person few could take on by themselves. She doesn't leave the Void at the same time as Deadpool and Logan, but she does escape back to Earth 10005 timeline at the end of the movie, where she sits in Deadpool's apartment, enjoying the company of Wade and his friends. Azazel first appeared in live action in X-Men First Class, where he was played by Jason Fleming. One of the mutants working for Sebastian Shaw, he doesn't have many lines in the movie, but he's shown to have the same teleportation abilities as Nightcrawler. In the comics, he's Nightcrawler's father and has the appearance of the Devil. Azazel appears in Deadpool and Wolverine looking pretty much exactly like he did in First Class, and he's played once more by Fleming. Azazel is one of the many minions employed by Cassandra Nova, and he goes up against the heroes when they raid the compound. He battles several characters, but his final confrontation is with Blade. Blade attempts to take him out several times, but Azazel's teleportation ability makes it difficult. During their fight, just before he kills Toad, Blade appears to slash Azazel through the torso, and he disappears in a cloud of dust. It happens quickly, so it's unclear if Blade's killed him or if Azazel has merely teleported elsewhere. But since he doesn't appear again, it looks like Blade was able to finish him. Juggernaut is a fan-favorite X-Men villain, and he's been around almost since the beginning, first appearing in Uncanny X-Men issue 12. He most recently appeared in film in Deadpool 2, played by David Leitch, with Ryan Reynolds voicing him, though he was primarily CGI. Juggernaut appeared in live action before that in X-Men The Last Stand, and was played by Vinnie Jones, though his costume and personality weren't as comics accurate as many fans would have liked.
I'm the wrong guy to play hide and seek with.
Hopefully, those fans can get over their dislike for that costume, because the Juggernaut is back, and he's wearing those same threads. Jones doesn't reprise his role in Deadpool and Wolverine, but the character plays an important part in the film. When it's determined that the only way to block Cassandra Nova's psychic powers is to slap Juggernaut's helmet on her head, he becomes a target. During the fight at Nova's compound in the Void, X-23 takes on the unstoppable Juggernaut. She manages to slice off his feet at the ankles, and after he collapses onto his knees, she removes his helmet and presumably his head. She then chucks it up to Deadpool, who manages to place it on Nova, ending her psychic hold on Wolverine. Hunter B-15 entered the MCU in the first season of Loki. She returned for the second season, in which she comes to terms with her place in the TVA and the Sacred Timeline. Considering that Loki Season 2 ended with the TVA altered to primarily police Kang variants, it wasn't clear what her role might be moving forward. That's all cleared up in Deadpool and Wolverine, as she returns in a new suit, no longer working as a TVA soldier, but apparently in a leadership position. She's informed of a Time Ripper device being activated by Mr. Paradox to erase Deadpool's timeline and returns in the third act to sort things out. She confronts Mr. Paradox and quickly realizes he's not being entirely truthful with her before having him arrested. Amusingly, Hunter B-15 also seems to be immediately attracted to Peter Wisdom, while thanking Deadpool and Wolverine for stopping both Paradox and Cassandra. Instead of pruning Wade and Logan, she agrees to help bring back their friends from the Void. Only X-23 returns to Deadpool's timeline, but it's hinted that B-15 does rescue the others and drops them off in their original universes. In addition to the plethora of people brought back from various Marvel properties for Deadpool and Wolverine, there are some digital cameos as well. The most obvious is the inclusion of Giant Man, otherwise known as Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd isn't in the film, nor is his likeness, but when Deadpool sees a mask open up to reveal his desiccated skull, he jokes, "Huh,
Paul Rudd finally aged.
Another digital cameo comes in the form of Stan the Man Lee. Lee's face makes an appearance as a photo on a bus and seen in the third act when Deadpool and Wolverine go up against an army of Deadpool variants. The ad is for Stanley Steamer, your friendly neighborhood cleaners, and is marked since 1922, which was the year of Lee's birth. This isn't the only time the late great Lee turns up. He also appears during the credits in a bit of archival footage that shows Lee wearing his signature shades and a light jacket. There are a couple of blink and you'll miss it cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine that most people wouldn't notice on their first viewing. Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fame purchased Wrexham AFC in 2020. As co-owners, the two actors helped take the Welsh football club to the next level, with the club promoted to League One in 2 consecutive years. Reynolds is known to drop nods or mentions in his work to promote or honor things he cares about, so it's no surprise that there are 2 Wrexham AFC cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine. Ollie Palmer, who is a forward on the team, appears in the movie as a bar patron. It's easy to miss him, as he's only on screen for a short time in the background of the scene where Deadpool recruits the worst Logan for his quest. The other Wrexham AFC cameo is McElhenney himself. He plays a nameless TVA soldier you'd likely never recognize due to his gear masking his identity. There's one last Wrexham AFC cameo, of sorts, that comes in the form of a Deadpool variant wearing the dragon from the Welsh flag. Ryan Reynolds later confirmed on his X account the identity of the Welsh Paul as Wrexham forward Paul Mullen. Some of the best cameos and Easter eggs in Deadpool and Wolverine come via the many variants of the 2 leads. Deadpool runs into plenty of Wolverines during his adventurous montage throughout the Marvel multiverse as he looks for a Logan to replace the anchor being lost in his reality. He comes across several versions of the character, most of whom are played by Hugh Jackman.
You got the wrong guy.
These include a diminutive version of the Canadian superhero who, while shorter than Jackman, is a bit too short to be comics accurate. Deadpool also finds Logan's decaying corpse from Logan and the Weapon Omega version of Wolverine from Marvel's Age of Apocalypse crossover. He also meets Wolverine's alter ego, Patch, as well as a crucified Wolverine from the cover of Uncanny X-Men issue 251. Old Man Logan shoots Deadpool with a hidden shotgun, and there's a version of Wolverine taken from the cover of the Incredible Hulk issue 340, which technically also includes a cameo by the Incredible Hulk, though he appears to be only digital and not played by Mark Ruffalo. The Hulk is even reflected briefly in Wolverine's claws, just like he is on the cover. Finally, Henry Cavill plays the one non-Jackman Wolverine variant, which is fitting as many fans have fan-casted him as a potential replacement for Jackman. Of all the characters who show up in different forms in the film, none get more of a spotlight than Deadpool. A literal army of his variants appear at the end of the film, and the only way to stop Cassandra Nova from finishing off all realities but the Void is to go through them, which Deadpool Prime and Wolverine do in horrifically gory style. Not every Deadpool variant is from a comic, but a lot of them are. Getting the most prominent out of the way first, none other than Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds' wife, plays Lady Deadpool. She doesn't remove her mask, but has one line of dialogue. There's also Dogpool, or Mary Poppins, played by Peggy the dog, and Headpool, which is the decaying skull of Deadpool from the Marvel Zombies books. Cowboy Deadpool, otherwise known as the Deadpool Kid, is voiced by Matthew McConaughey, though you never see his face in the film. There's also Dance Paul and Kid Paul, as well as Baby Paul. Reynolds plays a disturbingly friendly uber-Canadian version of Deadpool with long hair that Deadpool Prime calls Nice Paul, though he unfortunately lacks the ability to regenerate. While they don't feature prominently in Deadpool and Wolverine, several notable characters return from the previous 2 films in the franchise. In the first act, Wade staples a toupee onto his head and plays it straight, working to sell cars since he wasn't able to become an Avenger. He's hung up his costume and katanas and is trying to make his life work, but he's also driven Vanessa away, even though they're still friends. Wade is also staying at Blind Owl's apartment once more, and his friends will show up for his birthday celebration. These include Yukio, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Colossus, Dopinder, Peter, and Buck. Of all these characters, only Peter has a prominent role in the film, while the others serve as motivation for Wade to save his universe.
I'm about to lose everything that I've ever cared about.
Peter works with Wade at the car dealership, and he supports his pal in whatever way he can. Near the end of the film, after Deadpool and Wolverine return from the Void, Peter throws on Wade's old costume and offers some assistance. He quickly becomes a hero and saves the day. Twice, in fact. After this, everyone gathers once more for a party, with the additions of Logan, Laura, and Dogpool. There are several characters who appear in various points in Deadpool and Wolverine, but since their screen time is limited, it's unclear who they might be. But there are still clues as to who they are, and some can be identified with a fair amount of confidence. For instance, during the fight at Cassandra Nova's compound, X-23 is snagged by a purple whip made of energy. The person wielding it wears a costume and looks a lot like Psylocke from X-Men Apocalypse, though it doesn't appear to be Olivia Munn reprising the role. Another character featured prominently is a large man wearing a red and white striped shirt. This appears to be the villain known as the Russian from 2004's The Punisher. Kevin Nash played the character in that film, though it appears that a new actor has taken up the mantle. While it could be someone else, he's featured prominently enough that it does appear to be the Russian. He's killed by Gambit's staff, which causes him to explode. It also appears that Callisto, originally portrayed by Dania Ramirez in X-Men The Last Stand, fights for Nova, though it's unclear who plays her in Deadpool and Wolverine.